First of all, I want to thank Michelle for giving me this opportunity. Any mom wants the chance to talk about their child. I know these circumstances seem strange that I would want to talk about him, but I do. So I'm going to share with you our story. And I'd like to shed some light on what life after death can actually mean. And this is our story. I had what I would consider a dream family, married to a wonderful man and 2 amazing children. That's Carson and Adair. And I loved our life. My precious son, only son, was born July 7th, 1987. You have to bear with me. I remember kissing his chubby little feet and dancing around the living room cheek to cheek with this beautiful baby boy. It's almost impossible to describe him. I sometimes feel like there just aren't enough words. He always had a little mischievous twinkle in his big baby blue eyes. We used to think he looked like Tweety Bird with big eyes and big long eyelashes. From the time he could talk, he was funny. Not that silly little kid kind of funny, but a sort of clever adult-like funny. I'll admit some of the teachers didn't appreciate his humor. He was compassionate. He loved animals. He was a prankster. He had a way of making everything fun, and he was oh so charming. He was creative. He had great friends, and the party never started until he got there. He was my heart and soul. Sorry. We were connected. We could read each other's thoughts with just a glance. His little sister Adair loved and adored him. He was her built-in entertainment, and she loves to laugh. My favorite moments are when I was lying in bed at night and they were upstairs watching something on TV, and you would just hear a burst of laughter of both of them, and I used to look at my husband and say, that was the sweetest sound. They were a team. Our little family of 4 was exactly what I dreamed of, even more than I could have imagined. Life rolled on. Family vacations, school plays, first puppy, late night science projects, with Carson always due the next day. Christmas mornings, football, baseball, lacrosse games, toilet papering houses, school dances, first crushes, curfews, heartbreaks, driver's license graduations. It was all part of our wonderful life. Carson was born and raised in Austin, and after high school, he went to TCU. He pledged a fraternity, and he ate it up, loved every minute of it. I can remember going up one summer before his junior year, and we bought IKEA furniture, and the air conditioning in the old house that he was renting was not working, and it was about 102 outside. And we were just drenched sweating, and I remember we just started laughing at our inability to read instructions. I loved it all. I just loved being with him. After graduation, Carson decided he needed to be in LA. He was a filmmaker. He had been making films for as long as I could remember. He used to take our family camcorder when he was 9 and go into the neighborhood, enlisting his friends to be actors. Of course, his films were always comedies. He set off to LA and found work filming on a reality show. I went to visit him the Halloween before the accident. We had such a great time together. I remember thinking that he was so brave just going out to Los Angeles alone and following his passion. He came home for the Christmas holidays. We spent it with grandparents, cousins, and friends. A few days after New Year's of 2012, Carson flew back to LA to move into his new place and meet one of his new roommates. He had only been there 3 days when we got the call. This is the part of the story that sometimes I feel like I'm talking about someone else's life. The voice on the other end said Carson had been in an accident and had suffered a serious brain injury. The doctor said it was as bad as it gets. I went to the ground, begging him to save him. They couldn't know who was to us. How could they? We raced to LA and we walked in ICU and saw him lying there, not a scratch on him. I thought we were going to fix the whole thing. He looked so beautiful. I remember seeing the truth in the nurses' and doctors' eyes, but somehow couldn't see it all at the same time. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends flew to LA to be with him. The surgeons needed to remove 2 pieces of his skull to reduce the pressure on his brain. The neurosurgeon told us that he had a shearing of the brain. Carson was in a coma for 5 days. I remember kissing 2 tears that ran down the side of his face. I still believe they were for me. I pressed my cheek to his cheek and thought about how many times I had done that very thing with him when he was a baby. When they told us that the test showed no blood flow to the brain, life stopped. I felt like our life was over, and I just wanted to go with him. We all held him and kissed him, and I didn't want to leave that room. After some time, the doctor said someone wanted to speak to us, and we stepped into the hallway. An organ transplant representative asked us if we would be interested in organ donation. We all 3 looked at each other. Right away, my daughter said yes. We all felt like it was what he would have wanted. He was such a compassionate soul. The accident happened in a split second. A car struck Carson while he was crossing the street that night. In a split second, our lives were forever changed. Our little family of 4 was now missing such a huge presence. How could we have life without him? This is the part about life after death. If you'd asked me before that day in the hospital if donating my child's organs would help us in any way, I would have said, probably not. But that was not the point anyway. It was to help someone else. End of story. While sitting in that little room in the hospital answering questions for the organ donation representative, we were asked if we knew anyone that needed an organ, and we said no. But then for some strange reason, my husband said wait, and then he got up and he said he would be right back. He went out into the waiting room and asked a good friend to send out an email to everyone asking if anyone was in need of an organ. We were so devastated and in shock, we didn't give it too much thought. We did find out a day later that a friend of a friend knew a girl in Dallas, the same age as our daughter, who needed a liver. We did not know her, but we authorized a direct gift. The liver was a perfect match. It's hard to believe in my darkest, deepest grief. I'm sorry. When I got the news that it was a match, I felt a sudden surge of joy. It's hard to believe in my darkest, deepest grief that I could feel a wave of joy, but I did. It has been a gift that the tragic accident was not the end of our story or Carson's story. He was so much more than that. It has been a huge gift to see what a difference that he has made in this precious girl's life. It is a gift to know and love her. I'm truly lucky to be part of her life. She's an amazing and beautiful person. In my mind, the day we lost Carson, my life was over, and I was just going to exist. The surprise is that there is life after death. There are 4 people living life with organs that Carson could no longer use. I feel like I am living and not just existing, and I owe so much of that to knowing Carson's life made a difference, such a difference. I'm grateful I had Carson for 24 years. He was the best son. I'm grateful that we've had the opportunity to donate Carson's organs. And this is this precious little girl.
I mean, how do you follow that? Okay, I kind of wrote something, but I'm really bad at reading, so just bear with me. I'm Adele Brown. I'm a senior at the University of Texas. No idea what I'm doing when I graduate, so Please don't ask. I was born with a rare liver condition called Alagille syndrome, which is basically just a paucity of bile ducts that cause buildups and prevent your liver from working properly. I'm the youngest of 5, so my parents didn't really have time to treat me like a sick child, like most Alagille's parents supposedly do, which I am extremely grateful for. I had a few medical hiccups, but for the most part, just got to miss more school than other people. However, when I was about 13, during a routine ultrasound, they found what they called a regenerative nodule, which I'm pretty sure is made up, but it's basically, it's similar to a tumor, but I guess it's just made of liver tissue, and that became the primary concern. So it was larger than most, I guess, usually are, and it was causing several gastrointestinal bleeds, which also might be made up. And so my pediatric doctor sent me on to the big girl doctors down at Baylor. I'm from Dallas. At this point, I was getting noticeably sicker a lot quick. My eyes were yellow, and I was having more bleeds and hospital stays, and I had significantly less energy. So in December of 2010, I was put on the transplant list. I never really, I'm shaking, sorry. I never really expected to get a transplant. I guess even when I was on the list, I didn't think much about it. Your spot on the list is based on a MELD score, which I've Googled a lot, and I don't really know how that is calculated. But mine was a steady 19, and they usually transplant at 25 to 30 nowadays just because so many people need organs. So I went back to school and tried to continue on, and my first week of school in fall of 2011, I went to the hospital because I was just in serious pain. And the doctors, the hospital here, said that they thought that my nodule had grown, so they sent me back to Dallas to see my doctors. I met with lots of different surgeons and to see if they could remove it or put a stent. I had a stent put in my liver to open up blood flow to try and buy me more time, I guess, but I wasn't going to get a liver the normal way. So Baylor had just hired this living donor doctor who I met with, and he still is one of my favorite doctors, but I just didn't feel comfortable with living donation. I just didn't feel right to me. So I have no idea where I am. But that Christmas rolled around, and my sister was getting married in January. And at this point, I was sleeping like 19 hours a day, and I could just feel my body shutting down. You know, I would go to doctor's appointments, and the doctors wouldn't say anything bad necessarily, but I could just feel myself dying. My brother was getting tested to donate part of his liver, but I just knew that I didn't want it, and I knew it. I just could feel it wasn't going to happen. I mean, we were going to wait till he graduated, and I just didn't think that I was going to last that long. The day my sister's wedding came, and I felt great. I woke up that morning at like 7 and went on a walk with her, and we got our makeup done, and I just felt really good. And I had been in so much pain. Like, it was so hard to just have a conversation with my family, and they're my favorite people in the world. But I felt so good that day. And I remember at one point during the wedding, my whole family was there, and we were all on the dance floor having fun. I just thought, I'm so lucky. God is giving me this time with my family to say goodbye. I mean, it's Charlotte's wedding, but he's giving it to me. Don't tell her that ever. But I really did. I thought, this is all for me. She's getting married. That's great. But this is all for me. I get to be with my family. I have 25 cousins on my mom's side, and we're all so close. And everybody was in town, and there's this moment, like I look back, and it kind of feels like a dream, but I just felt so at peace, and I just knew that was how my life was going to go, but I was so lucky. And the next morning I woke up, and my mom came in. She was so sweet to me, which she never is when waking me up. She said that Baylor had called, and a 24-year-old boy had died, and his family had directed his liver to go to me. Dr. Tested said it was a match, and that the liver was pristine, and I should take it. I looked in the doorway. My brothers were standing there, so excited, and they were 22 years old at the time. And that's all I could think of was them. And everyone went downstairs to tell the whole family, and I decided to take a shower, and I remember I turned on the water and I got in the shower and I just sat down and cried. Because all I could think of was there was a boy. I didn't know who it was, but there's a family somewhere. He was probably a brother and he was a son, and that's all I could think about. I didn't know who he was, but he passed away, and there was a family planning a funeral. And I was thinking about my brothers, and I just cried. But once I saw my family, the excitement and nerve set in, and later that afternoon, right before I left for the hospital, we got a phone call from a family friend who said that the Cummings family, their son and brother Carson, had passed away, and they were donating his organs and his liver to me. I spent that night in the hospital before my transplant the next morning, and we received an email from Melissa, forwarded to us with a picture of Carson, saying, "Please send my baby's picture to your sweet friends." I got many phone calls and text messages that night from friends who knew Carson or had friends who knew him, and before even going into my surgery, I knew so much about this boy. I'd seen a picture of him, and I stayed up all night. I didn't go to sleep at all, and I think I went through every single emotion possible. I never prayed for a transplant. I couldn't. I hated that somebody had to die for me to live. I prayed for my family and for strength and knowledge and understanding, but I just could never make myself pray or hope for a transplant. But now I'm here 2 years out, and I feel better than I ever have. And I am so thankful for Carson and the Cummings family. The idea that someone's loved one can live on through me is the neatest gift I could ever give or receive. I feel so blessed not only to have a new liver and a second chance at life, but to have Carson's liver. His liver may not make me funnier, or my eyes bluer. I wish. He's very handsome. But I get to carry a piece of someone so incredibly special with me every day, and that changes my life in ways that I can't describe. And it makes my life special just simply because he's in it. When the doctors took my liver out, they saw that the regenerative nodule was the only working part of my liver, and the rest of it was dead. I would not have survived long enough to receive any liver but this one. My doctor said that he is a man of science, but that this liver was a gift from God. And I know now, truly, I mean, I've lost my place, and now I'm not really sure how I was going to end it. I'm really sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Okay. I actually cringe. My doctors refer to Carson as my donor because he's just so much more than that. And I'm here today because of him and because of the Cummings family, and probably because of what all you do. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you to Melissa and the Cummings family. I am so much more grateful than I could ever put into words.